John, good evening and welcome to the show. First tonight, if your chooks began to lay yolkless eggs, if you had to abandon your home because you couldn't sleep in it, you'd want to know why. These are some of the stories from South Australians who believe wind power and people just don't mix. It's been a politician's dream, a highly visible green energy quick fix, but have we allowed them to get carried away without proper attention to the impact on nearby communities? The industry says it's all in the mind. A growing number of critics say the ill effects are real. Here's Graham Archer with a look at the people battling into the wind.
I call wind farms bat-chomping, bird-slicing eco-crucifixes.
Realise that people like us are not telling furphies. It's real. We can feel it.
The air is clean, the fields are green, but the tiny hamlet of Waterloo is in the grip of a public health crisis.
I get pressure pain in my ears.
What is the loss of sleep going to do to our lives?
Feeling agitated.
But that's your home.
Well, it was my home. I dread going up there now. I'd do anything not to go up there.
The problem, say the residents, is just over the horizon.
I went to this town and it was heartbreaking, the tragic stories I heard from these people.
I could not do that to my family. In fact, I couldn't do it to my neighbours because we have to live with our neighbours.
2 years ago, the turbines came, 37 of them, the closest 3 k's from the town. That's when the trouble began. So it's all locked up, Andres?
Yeah, all boarded up.
Must break your heart coming here.
I can't come here anymore. It's just heart-wrenching.
Andreas Marciniak chose to live in a shed under a highway overpass rather than here, his tree change retreat.
I live on the busiest road in South Australia, and I can sleep there. Yet I cannot sleep here. Went to the meetings and I thought this is the best thing ever.
Right.
Until about, I'd say, 4 or 5 weeks after I started up.
So you were pro renewable energy.
Oh, still
pro
am.
wind farm.
Yeah, still am. It's just to go to find out what's causing these problems to myself and my family. If I stayed there, I'd definitely be dead or a vegetable.
His brother John has also abandoned town, leaving his recently renovated home for a caravan and a ruin 20 kilometres away.
Well, it's very primitive, if you want to put it that way, with no power, no laundry, no nothing. I ended up in hospital with serious chest pains and stuff, had stents put in, and the pains are just unbearable. Headaches, earaches.
You think that was directly a result of the wind farms?
Well, I got a lot better when I came down here.
And neighbour Neil's chooks have started laying eggs without yolks. Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
That's not normal.
No, it isn't.
And have you experienced that before?
No. Well, only in the last 3 months. The chickens went off lay for 6 months, and when they came back on lay for a 3-month period, this is what they produce.
Yolkless eggs?
Yeah.
We can't prove there's a connection, but there are plenty of others who are no longer here to tell their own horror stories. Instead of an environmental solution, this is a disaster area. So how would you describe Waterloo now?
Waterloo, ghost town.
A ghost town?
Yeah. Even when you drive into Waterloo and you go and meet the people that you like to see again, there's an eerie feeling about the whole place.
And these people appear to have nothing to gain by talking down the value of their properties. And in some cases, a fair bit to lose by speaking out.
Not only were we in favour, we were decidedly pro, we were also very instrumental in the wind farm starting up in the first place.
David and Alida Mortimer are committed to renewables and derive significant income from the 2 towers on their southeast property near Lake Bonnie, one just 750 metres from their house.
I won't say how much specifically, but several $1,000s per turbine per year.
The argument's been put that the people who derive revenue from the farms don't complain, but you put the lie to that, don't you?
Yes, I believe so.
In the face of industry derision about jealous whingers, here's proof turbine hosts do get sick, but they're generally bound by contracts with gag clauses.
I don't think we were in a position to be able to withdraw from it and say, hey, no, we don't want to go ahead with this.
Even when they moved to another home 2.5 kilometres away, the ill effects followed them. Alida suffers unexplained dizzy spells.
And if you leave this area, what happens?
Oh, it goes away. I'm fine while we're away from home.
And David...
Waking up in the morning felt like I'd not slept all night, you know, desperately tired in the morning, which was never, you know, I used to wake up refreshed. And nocturnal panic attacks. I'd wake up in the middle of the night trying to escape from things in an absolute blind panic, and I had no idea what I was trying to get away from.
So, what's causing this? Well, nothing, if you accept what the companies, our health authorities and the EPA tell us. They've even used the term nocebo, meaning if you're told you'll feel crook, then you'll probably talk yourself into it. But there's a more scientific possibility.
First off, infrasound is energy that appears in the spectrum below what the human ear can normally hear.
Stephen Cooper is an audio engineer who discovered errors in noise level standards for airports all around the world. They've since been recalibrated based on his research. Now he's turned his ears to wind farms.
The guidelines have utilised generalised noise concepts similar to what you would use for a swimming pool pump, an air conditioner or a motor vehicle. So by using the generic dBA level, that covers normal noises.
They overlook infrasound, low-frequency energy, which Cooper says can interfere with brain patterns, causing sleep disturbance and other side effects. The state EPA denies its presence.
The EPA has consulted the working group and completed an extensive literature search, but is not aware of infrasound being present at any modern wind farm site.
Well, the documentation to say that there's no issue in terms of infrasound is not correct when you look at the facts.
Cooper's independent recordings were conducted in the bedroom of farmer Kim Dixon, just 1.3 kilometres from the Waterloo wind farm.
What did he find?
Well, he found the pulsating of the low-frequency noise levels.
And that's what he calls infrasound?
Infrasound, yes.
And that's what the EPA guidelines say they can't detect from these machines?
Yeah, no, they can't detect that, but Stephen's equipment definitely does.
So it contradicts what the EPA have been saying?
Yes, it is, yes.
And in your bedroom, where you sleep?
Yes. Exactly.
There are hundreds of residents around Australia who have identified they are being adversely affected by wind farms.
If the community can uncover this data, it's hard to believe the people who make and install the turbines and the EPA don't have it.
I just don't think they're giving all the information. You know, it's being filtered.
And do you have any doubt that they do know?
Absolutely no doubt whatever.
I can tell you that the wind farm companies have been suppressing this evidence.
All this might be more excusable if wind turbines actually replaced our dependence on baseload black power, but they don't.
It doesn't really add anything to capacity. I mean, it does add something to the amount of electricity we generate, albeit at very high cost, but it adds very little to in terms of the capacity.
Dr. Alan Moran is an economist with the Institute of Public Affairs.
In a free market, wind couldn't possibly be viable. It is 3 times the cost of its alternatives. Many claim that wind will in future be viable and be lower cost, but they've been saying that for 20 or 30 years and it still isn't.
Wind farms have no economic value whatsoever. If there were not government subsidies involved, then wind farms would not be being built because the energy they produce is, as I said, intermittent. It is essentially worthless.
UK author James Dellingpole is a committed climate change sceptic. Though not opposed to renewable energy, he is no fan of wind power.
What's going on here is a scandal, and there has been a massive cover-up going on because there is so much money to be made.
They're only financially viable thanks to renewable energy certificates the fossil fuel power generators are forced to purchase from them.
When you own a wind farm, you are paid $500,000 per year per wind tower. So, of course, this ends up being added onto the energy bills of consumers.
And the lion's share of the 2020 renewable energy target of 20% will, of course, be wind.
That target in itself will create an additional cost of about 15 or 16% on our power bills. There may be a further cost because we do need to have backup. Wind is inherently unreliable.
And it becomes interesting in that the low frequency is actually louder inside the house than outside the house.
And there's growing unease in community after community around the country. This is picturesque Burrawa in central New South Wales. Last week the town gathered to listen to the research the companies and the government authorities have failed to provide.
There's a bucket load of money shoveled out of Canberra in the form of renewable energy credits. No conditions attached to them. No requirement to satisfy individual receptor locations.
Barrister Peter Quinn is there to warn locals about the bitter fight some SA farmers faced when opposing new developments.
The authorities have failed in South Australia and they will fail in New South Wales because of the combination of interests. The EPA and the planning authorities have been co-opted by wind energy groups.
Federal Senator John Madigan is one of the few politicians prepared to speak out against what's become an environmental sacred cow.
You know, it's people we're talking about first and foremost, and it's people being driven off their land. I could tell you story after story, and these people, pardon my French, are not bullshit artists.
While almost all those we spoke to are not opposed to wind power per se, it appears politics and profit have come well ahead of any thoughts or planning over the possible impact on people's lives.
It has got to be rolled back for the sake of Australia, for the sake of the world. Every time a wind farm gets erected on a beautiful hillside in Australia, another community is destroyed, another nail is hammered into your economy.
I'd say, Australia, wake up, take your head out of the sand, do a little bit of research and realise that there really are big problems.